Thanks for staying here. And today I just would like to tell you one thing only, and that is that the Internet of Things or data science, some of the buzzwords in the summit, will have little to do with things and data, and a lot to do with people. And that's the only thing I had to say. So that's, no, it's not the end of my talk, just to make sure that you don't think I'm totally crazy. Let me explain you what I mean. And what I mean is a very simple thing, and that is that just think about web and Web 2.0, right? In the web, you had a collection of pages. In Web 2.0, you have a collection of people who are engaging in social media. So you have a transition from pages to people. And if you think about the Internet of Things or new things that are emerging, what you actually see is the same transition, or you will see in the future, right? So a transition for Internet of Things, the emphasis is on devices, and then in the near future, we will see an emphasis on people, right? So we will see that in terms of the Internet of Things 2.0. And just to make sure that to understand, right, what I mean by people, let me just tell you a bit about the smart city kind of rhetoric, company rhetoric, and I do a lot of research on that. So the smart city rhetoric is about efficiency and security, right? So the idea is basically that when you go to work, you're gonna always be on time. When you go shopping, there is no queue. And you know what? You're gonna feel really, really safe because of the CCTV cameras around you, right? And yet, all these things like security, no queue, and efficiency make a city, if you think about it, they make a city acceptable, but they might not make a city great. What makes a city great? Well, what makes a city great is that you need to understand the social dynamics that underpin a city. And to understand that, you need to go back to what has been done in social sciences, for example, by these guys, Jane Jacobs, Kevin Lynch, Stanley Milgram. Do you know any of them? Maybe yes. So basically, those are social scientists that did a lot of research in the context also of cities in the 1970s. So what we did in our research, we tried to basically copy them, but we copied them by rerunning the experiments with data that was not available in 1970. And let me just give you two examples of things that we did. The first thing is about urban beauty. I know you're thinking, this guy is crazy. Maybe I'm crazy, but the idea here is that people like to understand what makes a city street beautiful, right? So beauty is a subjective concept. And do you know how Facebook started? Maybe you watched the social networking movie? Yes? Brilliant. So you had to compare two pairs of pictures from female, and then out of this pairwise comparison, you would get the hot 10, the hottest 10 on campus, right? So we actually did a sort of phase match, but for cities. Basically, if I were to ask you between these two urban scenes, which one is more beautiful, which one would you say, A or B? Who says A? Come on. Who says B? Brilliant. So beauty, a subjective concept, and yet if you do a simple pairwise comparison at times, you know where consensus might emerge. So based on this premise, we built the crowdsourcing platform for research where basically people were playing a game where they would ask which one is more beautiful between two urban scenes, which one is happier, which one is quieter. And based on thousands of user votes by playing this game, is 1 minute game with a purpose, we would actually rank the picture by beauty, by quietness, and by happiness. Now, imagine that these pictures are actually urban scenes. So they are points on a map. What do you do with points on a map? What a data scientist does? connects points, right? So that's one thing that you can do, and that's what we did. So you can connect these points by the beauty scores, for example. And the result of that has been the creation of new mapping tool that instead of giving you the shortest direction from A to B, is going to give you the short direction, but that is more pleasant. Is happier, is quieter, is more beautiful. Right? Very simple. And yet, we're able to capture this subjective perception of beauty. The interesting thing is, though, that when we did the experiments in London and Boston, our participants said, oh, wow, fantastic. So why companies don't do that? Why I have my Google Maps the shortest direction? Who knows? But the other thing that I said is, okay, there are a few things missing. One of which was smell. One guy said, I like in the morning to take the parallel road next to my house because I like the smell of coffee and bakery, right? So you would take that street because of smell. And so I went back to the people who actually work with, and I said, guys, we designed something for beauty, for visual. Now we need to design also something for smell. They looked at me and I said, you're crazy, right? Possibly. And do you think that smell is important? Brilliant. Yes. And why is that? Well, there was a science paper in 2014 saying that us as humans are actually able to smell, in principle, more than 1 trillion different types of smell. So think about your big data. So this figure has been debated last month between scientists. They're saying maybe 100,000, 1 trillion, who knows. But the point is, that is a really big number. And if you look at your nose, it's actually a big data machine, right? So now, given this big data machine potential, then what city planning is doing and what urban technologies are doing, they're dealing with the negative. So they're dealing with 10 to 50 bad odors. So out of this gigantic pie, you're looking at really one tiny slice. And why is that? Well, because the city council, they're relying on complaints. You complain and I deal with bad odors and that's it. So the problem is that smell is really difficult to measure, right? So there are people who are actually measuring it with the noise trumpet that go around, but that's not a totally scalable way, right? And I wouldn't be here in the data science session to actually present data with a noise trumpet. So what we did was something different. We went for small data. And actually we work with Kate. She's a PhD student at the Royal College of Art in London. And her PhD is about a methodology that is called smell walking. So she goes around the world and basically takes people on smell walk. She asks them, can you smell things? Tell me how pleasurable they are. And basically, over 3 years around the world, she collected 258 words related to smell. So we said, brilliant. So we take these basically words related to smell, we match them with social media data. The picture you actually leave when you upload, the tags you leave on pictures when you upload them on Instagram, Flickr, for example. So you take a picture of a violet and rose, right? So you put these 2 tags, and we look, for example, in the data set, since we're geeks, at the co-occurrence graph. Now, why we do that? Because we want to actually categorize words, right? So if we do that and you look at the co-occurrence of different smell-related words and you look at the clustering, then you can see that there are nature words, animal words, emission words. And that's quite powerful. Why? Because with this simple data-driven way, with a bit of small data, we actually came up with the first urban smell dictionary. So these words are categorized, they have categories, 10 categories, and the really cool thing of these is one thing only, that you don't only look at air pollution, but you also look at the positive side of smell. Now, for the first time, we actually have the ability to map the entire smellscape of the city and to actually look also at the positive sides of things. So we can build technologies on top of that. Just to make sure that we are not crazy, we work with the epidemiologists to see whether air quality conditions actually relate to what we find in social media. And they do, to a great extent. So when you have problems, say, in terms of air quality in street segments, you have a lot of traffic emission words, whereas when you have good air quality, you have nature-related words. As simple as that. So you can see some example here in London, if you're familiar. The hotspot in nature is a Hyde Park. The same goes for traffic emission. You look at the two roads around Hyde Park, totally traffic emission, don't live there. And where are you going to find animals? In the zoo, in the London Zoo, right? So basically here, the idea is really simple. I show you two examples to conclude about beauty and smell. Things that are really kind of subjective, difficult to quantify. And yet, those things are about people. And at Bell Labs, we actually believe that the future, the network 2020, will be more about people. We believe so much that we are building a new team in Cambridge, UK, about social dynamics, a research team. So if you know any crazy scientist, please let me know on Twitter. But more seriously, when you think about your projects or your data, and your data is coming from devices, it's coming from web pages, just think about that data coming from people. And that shift is going to allow you to maybe rethink a bit that project. Why is that? Why might be useful for your project? Well, because technologies change, but the basic human needs, our needs as social animals, don't, right? And that's exactly what we are after. Thank you very much.